So in life, sometimes you have great people, sometimes you have really bad people, and in the Army, it's no different. Sometimes you have great soldiers, and sometimes you have really horrible soldiers. And in this video, I'm going to be giving you a little bit of an example of some of those horrible soldiers that I have dealt with. What's up, my friends? Welcome to an all-new video. In this one, I'm specifically giving you my experience that I have had in the Army on active duty with some soldiers that aren't the greatest soldiers that you could possibly expect to have. It's no different in the military than it is in the civilian world. You have great individuals, bad individuals, and the Army is no different. Sometimes you have great soldiers that do what you're supposed to do and get the job done, and then sometimes you have some bad apples, some bad soldiers that don't get things done the way they're supposed to and just do horrible things. So that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video, is giving you some of my experience. Now, of course, obviously for personal reasons, I will not be giving out names of these individuals, but I will be telling you some of the stories that I have to share about these individuals. Now, I've had like the basic stuff. I've had soldiers that have come up hot on urinalysis for the drug tests and they get in trouble for that. I've had soldiers that, maybe have gotten DUIs. I've gotten soldiers that maybe have gotten in trouble downtown with maybe getting in a fight or something like that. But there are some little bit more extreme cases that I have run across. And there's always one individual that I remember very clearly that stands out above all of them. The most craziest story I've ever had of a soldier. I've told this story many times to individuals talking about, when they have like their crazy stories, maybe other veterans or something, talking about crazy soldiers that have done this or done that. And this is always the story that I like to tell to those individuals about this soldier that I knew when I was at my very first duty station in Fort Riley. I was not a non-commissioned officer yet, so this wasn't like my soldier. This was just simply another soldier that was in my platoon. So let me tell you this story about this individual when I was stationed at Fort Riley. This would have been in the early 2000s that I was dealing with this individual. So I had already been in the unit for, I don't know, maybe a year, maybe 6 months, something like that. And then this individual shows up to the unit. The way the person kind of just acted was always kind of weird, and we always had like this little suspicion or this worry that this individual is really CID undercover and trying to maybe bust people. I don't know if that's a real thing that CID does where they go undercover and try to do so, but I don't think that was the case with this individual. But I remember we were always paranoid that, oh, so-and-so was CID and they're undercover and they're just acting crazy like this because they, trying to, get people to trust them and not suspect that they're, CID, and then maybe find out who's dealing drugs or who's doing bad things or whatever the case might have been. So some of the strange things this individual was doing was, let's say that you needed this individual to go and sweep the line. The common thing you do as an 88 mic is, sweeping the motor pool line, the area where your trucks are at. And he would sometimes use religion to try to kind of get out of that. And he would say that, no, I don't think Jesus would want me to do that. So sometimes it was tough to get him to do certain tasks. It would be simple things like sweeping the motor pool, maybe going to get something, maybe go do something. And that's what he would tell the leadership. He would tell the non-commissioned officers that were in charge. He'd be like, no, I don't think Jesus would want me to do that. So he would try to kind of use religion in this weird way to try to get out of doing certain tasks. They weren't tasks that were like, morally, trying to, question yourself. They were just something simple as sweeping dirt away from the vehicles. And that's how simple these tasks usually were, and that was his excuse usually, was that Jesus wouldn't want me to do that. He was a single soldier, so I remember seeing him constantly in the barracks, walking around, knocking on your barracks doors on Wednesday for Bible study and for Sundays for church, trying to recruit other soldiers to, try to go to church with him, which, I guess that's okay. It's good to go to church, try to get away and do stuff, but it was just kind of weird the way he would do it. He would just kind of go door to door to door as if he was recruiting for that church, and it always just felt really weird. If he was coming and knocking on your door and it was Wednesday or Sunday, sometimes you just pretend that you weren't there, like a lot of people sometimes do, back at home. You see some people walking up and down the streets, they're trying to probably recruit for that local church or something like that, and some people, pretend they're not home. Well, sometimes this is what we were doing in the barracks because this individual was going door to door trying to recruit people to go to church with him. Now, so far, this doesn't maybe sound too weird just yet, but things definitely started getting a little bit weirder and weirder as more time went on with this individual being in our unit. Now, I remember things started getting a little bit weirder when I was on funeral detail, and if you are not familiar with what funeral detail is in the Army, I'll leave a link down in the description for a video that explains what funeral detail is, so if you want to know more about that, you can check that video out maybe after this one. But I remember we were on funeral detail, and we're going from different locations, right? You're practicing for funerals, and then you're going to these different locations to actually do these ceremonies at the funerals. And a lot of times we'd get there early, so maybe we'd stop off at the mall, at Walmart or whatever. And this particular instance, I remember we were at Walmart and he was shopping around. He got several items that he had gotten. I don't remember what the items were, but he had gotten several items. He goes to the checkout lane, he checks out, and immediately after paying for these items, goes directly over to customer service to return all of the items. I don't know if he all of a sudden then, after he was paying for them, decided he didn't need them anymore, but it was just kind of strange going directly from the checkout lane directly to customer service to return everything, get his money back. At another location, I think it was at a mall, they had a suit shop where you can like get, to custom fitted for a suit and order a suit. He went through the entire process of getting measured out for a suit, having someone measure him and everything like that, get the measurements to, tailor a special suit for him and everything like that, and then just left. He had no intention of buying a suit. I don't know why he wanted to go through the whole process of getting measured for a suit, but then they're like, okay, so what suit are you looking to get or anything like that, so we can make a custom suit for you. He's like, oh no, I'm good. And then he kind of just went on to shop through the mall. So went through the whole process with this tailor to get custom fitted for a suit and didn't really have an intention, I don't think, to even buy a suit in the first place. Now, a lot of this stuff is weird, but it doesn't maybe necessarily make him a bad soldier. It definitely makes him maybe a weird soldier, but he did start to kind of get on the kind of other side of things of being the bad soldier a little bit later, as he would kind of start to get more kind of argumentative with the non-commissioned officers. He would, still kind of refuse to do certain tasks that everybody else thought to do, meaningless tasks like sweeping or cleaning or something like that. And he would still kind of argue with the non-commissioned officers about doing them, saying that, it's against his religion or whatever he kind of claimed that was the reason why he couldn't do it. And a lot of times you would get these situations where you would see the non-commissioned officers yelling at him, telling him, you need to go, pick up this trash or go do that or whatever. And he would just block them out and start speaking in tongue. And if you don't know what that is, this is basically mumbling words that don't exist. And he would just sit there and start mumbling these words while these NCOs are yelling at him saying, you need to go do like everybody else is doing and go pick up trash or go sweep the line or do whatever. And he would just kind of blow them off and just start speaking in tongue. So a combination of that, and he would constantly be like showing up to formation out of uniform. There was times where he would be wearing something kind of weird and crazy, maybe these super, super long socks that you're not supposed to be wearing, and saying that that was, for his religion or something like that. And they're like these socks that come all the way up to like your thigh or something ridiculous. And, they're trying to tell him that's not authorized. You're not authorized to wear socks that tall and everything. And he would just kind of constantly be doing different things like that to go out of Army regulation for uniforms. I think there was a couple times he got in trouble for like not shaving, and then of course just plainly just blowing off non-commissioned officers because he didn't want to do the task and like start speaking in tongue. So that, I think, kind of started like this process. I don't know how they ended up eventually finding this out, but apparently he wasn't even supposed to be in the Army in the first place. It turns out that he lied when he went to MEPS, and he had a prior conviction for, I guess, cocaine trafficking. And so they ended up kicking him out. I don't know what kind of discharge he ended up receiving, but they ended up kicking him out of the Army for, lying, and you shouldn't have even been qualified to join the military because they, I guess, didn't pick up on this cocaine trafficking charge or whatever. And that, again, kind of goes back to where we started getting suspicious, like, was this guy really CID and doing all this for a show, and now that was his exit plan where he's gonna get kicked out of the Army because of this drug trafficking charge that the recruiters didn't pick up on? But he kind of like, if he was CID and was doing this undercover, he kind of continued to do this whole thing even after we kicked him out. There was another soldier in our unit that said that he was showing up to his house off base and sleeping in his bushes. And there was a couple times he had to call the cops on him to get him out of there. There was another time where he was washing his clothes in like a creek or a stream nearby and was drying his clothes on his bushes in front of his house off base. So if he was CID and this was all a big act, he did really well of like just keeping it going even though he wasn't even in the unit anymore. So that's why I kind of believe that he wasn't CID or anything. He was just probably crazy in some ways, but there was a lot of weird things, just the way he acted, the way he did things that really made everybody just kind of question what the heck was up with this guy. So some of that stuff made him a horrible person. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, and we all had to kind of pick up the slack because of that. Some of it just really made him a really, really weird person, I guess, too. But nonetheless, it was probably the biggest story I can think of when you think of soldiers that did something crazy while you were in the Army, or experiences with soldiers that were just really weird or disrespectful, or got in trouble or something like that. that was always the story that always stood out in my mind, and that's usually the story I'll tell to other veterans when we're exchanging like war stories or or stories about being in the Army. Now, if any of my viewers out there are currently in the Army, maybe some veterans, and you want to share some story about some soldiers really crazy or weird or whatever kind of a situation, love to hear about it down in the comments. But of course, for privacy reasons, don't mention any names. Just refer to it as Soldier A, Soldier B, whatever you kind of want to refer to it. Don't use any real names. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you show some love by hitting that thumbs up. Check out some recommendations over here for some other videos that may pique your interest. Check out the links down in the description for social media, my P.O. box, all sorts of stuff. Thank you so much for watching. I'm ThatChrisChaos, and I will see you next time. See ya.